second upload entirety as well.
Yeah.
Because it's just a little bit long of a video to upload.
Yeah, we can ramble on for a while.
Right, so where we left off was about the safety stuff. So it's about identifying the fact that with bad form, over time you do increase your risk of injury. So you need to make sure that you're training with good form to just ensure the fact that you're actually reducing that.
But at the same time, it might be helpful to touch on, if you're a coach watching this, don't nocebo your clients and say doing this exercise like this is going to hurt you, because what is your client going to think? When they do it, they're going to hurt themselves. That is literally...
Yeah, that just opens up a whole nother kettle of worms. My brain candy of like...
Here we go.
about coaching people that have bad form.
Yeah.
I'll just leave this nice and short. If you're a coach and you know your client has got bad form, change it.
Yeah.
Or from right off the get-go, have your standards.
Yeah.
Don't let that ego change it, because then what's the point of you being there? Why are they paying you? To coach them and make sure that they're doing things properly, both with technique and programming. So make sure you change it. Yeah. So don't be like, if your client comes in saying that they can lift way more weight than what's on the bar, and you know that they've got shocking technique as soon as they go above that, don't just let them do it, because otherwise you might as well just not be there.
Yeah, they can go to a normal gym and do that.
And if they don't have the respect for you, and if they're like doing that, then it's a question of whether you've started the relationship off the right foot.
True that.
Setting standards from the get-go, and also whether you want to keep them as a client or not. It should be greedy coaching anyway.
Sack them off.
Right, before we move on to the last bit in terms of identifying whether or not you have bad form and how to fix it, I just want to touch on the one more little thing about like when people first start off at the gym, how sometimes people get really strong quickly by just using shitty technique, and that comes from the lack of consistency, which we touched on in part one about. Right, week one they'll use 50 kilos with pretty good technique. Then because they want to jump up a faster weight, week two they'll use 60 kilos, but the form will go down. So it's not an increase in strength, it's a form degrading.
And it'll be a different exercise pretty much.
But the change in technique has allowed that weight increase. Then I go to 70 kilos because it's, again, shitty form. And then week four it's like 80 kilos and terrible technique. And then you get someone else who starts the gym who wants to learn how to do it properly. And to be fair, as a beginner, you could probably make that same rate of progress with good form. But let's say they're just starting off and taking their time to learn the technique. It might be a bit slower at the start because you're just practicing the technique and making sure you're getting a good foundation to load it, versus this other guy who's just gone for it. And that can look like, they've got a lot stronger and your method is worse. But in the long time, because of the injury risk, because of the suboptimal performance from that bad technique, over time you'll overtake them. So the analogy I use for that is, picture two beginners getting to a racetrack and they've got to learn or race each other basically in these race cars, alright? The race is a long old distance, it's going to take a long time to complete. You get one person who's never been in a race car before who hops in there and is allowed to just go for it. The other one, again never driven before, has to wait at the start line and get taught how to drive properly, alright, and how to do it. So their first few laps are going to be super slow because they're learning how to do it, alright? So the first person who hasn't been taught anything is allowed to go. They're going to go a lot quicker, but they're way more likely to start crashing into barriers, overshooting corners, just not driving very well at all. So although they've got going quicker, and they might have the lead for the first 10 laps, that person that's been taught properly and is a bit slower at the get-go, one, their car is in much better shape because they've been learning how to drive it properly, but by lap 15 they're already overtaking them. So by the end of the race, like lap 60, they've been just lapping them like crazy. Their car's in good condition, whereas the other person has got a beat up bloody car. And also,
just by taking a bit of time at the start,
the next round they can go to and beat them by more. The next round they can go to. So the end of the game,
longevity.
You're going to win. So, I mean, I like race cars, so that's why the analogy went but that is the same for technique.
Yeah, the way I look at that is that these exercises are skills at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So that person, the race car analogy, the person too that ultimately wins, right, because they sat down to learn at the start, they've developed that skill of racing, so ultimately they do better. You wouldn't expect to learn to juggle overnight or learn a language overnight. They are skills that it takes time to master, and then once you've mastered them, you become fluent at French. You can juggle without like thinking about it, right?
Exactly.
That is essentially what these exercises are skills, and it takes time to learn. You can't go into a gym, like you said, bang 50 kilos onto a bar and bench press it like a pro, and then just keep adding weight, because you're not a pro. You need to earn the right to nail that skill and progress over time.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a little side bit we wanted to add on, is just the fact that you might not be as rapid off the get-go.
Yep.
But
don't get frustrated. Keep chipping away at it.
It's the comparison I make as well as weight loss. If you have two people starting off a weight loss diet, one is they've got a steady approach and a sustainable approach with a goal of maintenance at the end, versus a fad diet that's super rapid. End of 5 days, the rapid weight loss is for sure going to lose more weight.
Yeah.
The end of 2 weeks, probably again, rapid weight loss. 1 month, maybe the rapid weight loss person's lost more. End of 6 months, they've lost, they've gained. So the steady person has net lost a ton more. End of a year, way more. So it's a technique of, okay, maybe you can load faster and the other person is slower, but over time they're going to just get stuck and the other person can keep going and make serious progress. And longevity is something that you really should bear in mind. It's hard to see if you've just started training at 18, seeing like
what you're going to be doing in 10 years' time.
But hopefully, if this is something you care about, you'll be training when you're still 30. So, well, hopefully you're still training at 30 if you do it properly.
You
don't bust your
body
stuff up. So that's something important. Right. Let's move it on then. So that's why. Let's more think about practicality of how to know whether this applies to you and whether you've got bad technique, and then we'll get into how we recommend sorting it out.
Hire a coach.
Number one, legit hire a coach, because that accelerates the learning curve by about 1,000 times.
You can't ignore the fact that hiring a coach with who it literally is their job to know all this stuff about technique, programming correctly, etc., is the best way, the top way to focus on your technique and improve over time, right?
If you're serious about it, would you rather learn the stuff and pay a bit of money to get go and learn it in a month, like literally a month, or would you prefer to not spend that little bit of money and waste more money, gym membership time and injury costs of taking 5 years to learn the same as what another person could,
or probably giving up, right?
More exactly,
because it takes so much time to learn that.
So firstly, if you're serious about it all, get a damn coach.
But
if you're not, and you're still serious and you don't want to coach, that's cool. So
there are other ways
little
of going
tips
about
to identify. So the first thing I'd say is if you notice inconsistencies week to week in terms of how a weight feels or how you're progressing week to week, because that could be a sign that your technique's changing. Because your strength shouldn't really be fluctuating too much in a given window, but the technique can fluctuate a massive amount to basically show that. So if you're coming in week 1 using 1 week, week 2 it suddenly goes up like crazy and you feel like it's gone a little bit differently, and then week 3 it drops back down again, and these like random fluctuations week to week could be a sign that the technique's not consistent enough. So that could be one.
That's a good way of identifying it. Another way is if you're noticing that you're getting niggles and like small injuries that are accumulating over time, you've probably got to look at your technique to see if that form is good, or the way you're programming. Have you got a lot of volume in there? That's the reason why you're not recovering from the sessions and stuff like that. But technique would definitely be one of the things you should look at.
And it's like not a muscle ache.
As
in like when we say
it's
niggles,
not soreness from
like
a session.
The joint pain, or like you know the pain. It's a different pain of like the actual just joint aching. And you're like, this doesn't feel good.
This isn't
versus
the way
muscle damage where it's like, oh, I felt like I've worked there. It's like, no, this actually just hurts. If you've got those cropping up, it's a good sign that
you probably want to look at how you're doing it.
Also, if you just don't feel the targeted muscle group the next day, we don't think we should be chasing
soreness.
But having said that, if you're doing a barbell bicep curl or a bent over row, and if your biceps aren't the thing that aches the next day, there, and you're like, it's just your joints aching more, again, tying into that, and your biceps don't really have the DOMs, but your elbows and everything else do, then maybe it's a sign that
your
technique. Or if your hip musculature's aching, like you got a bit of bum DOMs, some glute DOMs and hamstring DOMs.
Doing pull-ups and your neck aches. Because you try
and then also tied in with that, if you've got like your upper body day followed by a lower body day, and if your lower body day is consistently suffering because you're just training your glutes to hip thrust your barbell rows and your bicep
curls,
then it's a sign that maybe your form of the upper body day needs to be questioned. So if it's picking up on the niggles, and also if you notice a knock-on effect of performance.
Or you're not achieving your goal, right? So like we discussed earlier, if you have a goal and you've noticed you're tracking your progress over time, progress pics, strength gains, whatever your goal may be, if you're not getting any closer to your goal, obviously there are a lot of variables that come into it, but you've got to assess what you're doing technique-wise, form-wise, programming-wise, etc. in order to get your goal. That is essentially why you're training, is to achieve something. Everyone that goes to the gym doesn't just go to turn up. They're there to achieve something, whether they like it or not, whether they tell you or not. They're there to achieve something. Are you achieving that? No? Well, you got to look at what you're doing.
Exactly. Another little identifiable thing would be nice and simple: video.
Yeah.
It can feel like you're nailing that depth on the squat. Like, bro, my ass is hitting that grass. I've hit it, and then you video it, and you're like, did I start the rep there? Did the rep move?
Is that a
So video your exercises and you executing it, because that is a huge thing to identify whether or not you're doing it right. Because even without experience, you can probably tell if you're swinging it a ton. You can see if
you can see what momentum is.
See the range of motion. You can see whether or not you're trying to have too much range of motion and you're compensating in another joint or another body part to get the range of motion. And you can see that. So that's another thing. So I would say that, and if you're unsure and you've got video footage,
send them in. That would be super cool. That is essentially why we started Forever Forward, to help people with what we've learned, because there's a lot of misinformation out there and stuff like that. So if you are not confident on an exercise and you want help with it and you don't know who to approach, send them in. And we'll email.
We're limited to how much we can coach based on some video footage.
Oh yeah,
but
you can't
we can help out enough to I'd see the key things.
Yeah.
So in summary for those things, it's one, if you're seeing any inconsistencies in training and the weights, any niggles that pop up, or if you're not feeling it in the target muscle groups, and then also just filming it. They're
not
the key
achieving
things.
your goal.
And not achieving your goal. So they're the key things. So if someone's gone through those things, they're like, okay, so I've noticed an issue. How do we go about sorting that and fixing that? So we can take different stances. I don't know where you're at with this.
So one of the things that just popped into my head when, obviously the first bit is if you're one of those guys female people that go into the gym that instantly add loads of load onto the bar and do it with shoddy technique, then it's leaving your ego at the door, because that's not going to get you anywhere, taking the load back and focusing on your form. What I would also say is, I know a lot of people that go to the gym that just don't do warm-up sets. That was, for me, when I was doing a powerlifting block, doing more warm-up sets was so good, because it is literally practice. Like I said earlier, it's a skill. You are practicing the exercise that you're about to do, right? It's skill acquisition. So adding warm-up sets, if you don't already do them, is going to help you get good technique if you don't already do it. But you've got to focus on it. You can't just have I'm doing warm-up sets, I'm deadlifting, it's only 30 kilos, and like that. You've got to focus, alright?
Every set, every rep, execute the same. When I'm
treat it like a 1 rep max.
When I'm doing warm-up sets on like deadlift, my mental prep of every time I get the bar, I'm thinking the same thing with feet position, same thing hand position. When am I bracing? Bracing at the top, pulling myself down, the same position. Even if it's just 60 kilos on the bar, I will brace the same for my 5 sets of 60 kilos before I start increasing the weight, and every increase up to working weight is done the same.
Someone actually said to me when I was doing my warm-up sets once, is they were like, you made that look like it was going to be really heavy? And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, yeah, because I'm running through that same system in my head. Like we said earlier about the consistency,
Yeah.
I'm doing exactly the same process I would be doing if I was approaching the bar to do a heavy set of triples.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just going in there and lifting it willy-nilly and it looks like a deadlift. You go for exactly the same process, like you just said, and then, this guy said to me, he was like, wow, you made that look like it was really heavy. Well, okay, cool, but down the line, I'm going to be,
heavy, but the setup maybe.
Oh, yeah, made it look like it was going to be heavy. Sorry, not the actual lift. Just pretending. Like that. No, it looked like it was going to be heavy, right? So
that's my job, make everything look heavy.
Yeah. So that's a good way, as long as you focus on your technique and use warm-up sets correctly.
I would also say that's a way of identifying if you've got bad technique. If you're using a consistent technique in warm-up sets and then it changes when you get to a working weight, then that's not your working weight. That's higher than where your working weight should be, so you need to adjust. So
you can't
if you
use that.
have a set
You haven't
technique
right
for
yet.
the warm-up, if it's the same technique and then it suddenly starts changing as you get into your working weight, that's a sign as well.
Yeah.
If you feel a change, and you'll know if you feel a change.
What
I would generally do is try and... So you've got to address it. I wouldn't say there's any point of continuing. You're not getting anything out of it. So I would probably use it where you've got like a deload period where you can kind of use it as like a technique phase or just a lower volume phase where you're just kind of resetting everything. And the thing is, the weights will drop, but your strength per muscle group isn't necessarily dropping because you're using a different range of motion. You're not suddenly losing the strength. It's the absolute weight has come down, but because you're using the muscle group in a longer, like a bigger range of motion, it's not like you've lost size or you lose strength because it's actually a bigger stimulus on each muscle group that you're now using. You're getting more from it by decreasing the weight. So there's no worry about that.
Yeah.
And there might be a transient drop in maybe if you're a powerlifter in your strength output, but we're going for longevity and like, cool, if you want to have the biggest 1 rep max next week, but I don't care about that. I want the biggest 1 rep max possible, like at the end where you can personally breach. So whether that's this year, next year, and going through training blocks where you just drop it purposefully to focus on that technique. And to be honest, yes, this is like something that you can use if you notice your technique's really bad, but this should be something you do, like a technique block should be every block because you shouldn't have...
You should be using good technique every block.
But if we're assuming you're someone that's
Struggling with it.
gone into the wrong gym, where you followed the wrong advice and got bad technique, and now you need to change it.
Or you've been injured. So this is literally reminding me of when I broke my ankle playing rugby. I had, I think it was like 8 weeks in a moon boot and then like couldn't really do much afterwards.
Yeah.
The first time I tried to squat felt alien. It felt so strange. I couldn't squat the way I used to. It was really frustrating because I used to have a really big squat and I couldn't even just do a proper bodyweight squat. So my goal then became to restore squat. Like it was technique until it felt better. It wasn't, oh well, it's shoddy, I can't move my ankle, like I'm just gonna load loads of weights on there. That's got to be your goal until you've got good technique, which took a hell of a lot of time, like that technique training, to then be able to load weight on there. So
I'd say that's just the best thing, is just identify it and then just address it. Like
that's the priority.
Don't just stop. Like don't just keep going with the shit technique because you're not. And also, if you're trying to relearn a skill is very specific. So I don't think you can do like, oh, I'll do 3 sets light with really good technique on my deadlift, and then I'll just, for my ego, do 3 other sets with my terrible technique. Because then it's like, well, no, because you're trying to relearn the skill and you're trying to remove that element.
You're just reinforcing the crap technique.
That's still something your body's training. So you need to relearn it. So you need to wipe that shit out. It's like, it's just not something you should be doing. Like as you go through it, I'd say that's probably the best thing to do.
Well, if you think that it's a problem,
get a coach.
Make it a priority. Well, at the end of the day, it does come down to the fact that people, like, for example, us, we've trained forever. Like, literally been our passion for so long. And we love learning about it, and we make it, that is our priority, to know as much as we can about this stuff. Whereas for you, if you're an office jockey, you know a lot about
Your thing.
your thing, like that you do, right? That we wouldn't have a clue about. So if we needed, for example, if you're a mortgage advisor, if we need a mortgage, we don't set up ourselves.
You'd hope
we
that
go
we
to
come
see
to
you, right? If you want to get good at squatting, go get a coach. Like, obviously that's just an example, but at the end of the day, it does come down to the fact
And
that
it can have a massive knock-on effect to your life. Like,
yeah,
if you're
big
into
time.
the gym, yes, this might not be your passion, but you're like, I don't really care about it. Like, I don't need to know that much about it.
Yeah.
If you get like screwed over, like it can affect your life. Like you're
Yeah,
just
big
in
time.
general, like the quality of life
You
massively.
waste
So-
money, like, loads of money. I know so many
Yeah.
people that waste so much money on gym memberships that just go to the gym willy-nilly and do like stab in the dark, pointless stuff. If they had a coach, they get so much out of it.
Get a good coach.
Okay, well that, you said earlier, that opens a can of worms.
Woo! Right, quickly. If your coach is not focusing on technique, if they feel like they haven't got a good understanding of it, and if the points
they
don't
don't
make
care.
sense, if what they're saying doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
then it's an issue. And also,
If they
don't
try
have
to
good
use
technique
technical
themselves-
jargon, like straight away off the bat to try and impress you, like the most technical slang ever that you don't understand, because, like we said, you don't have to understand it because you're a mortgage advisor, not a coach. Then they're probably trying to impress you with that technical slang, but they're not coaching you in a way that you can interpret that information to get good technique in order to get your
Also,
result.
just see if there's a change after having them.
Well, yeah, this is
Does your
true.
technique change?
This is true.
So
Technique
that
change.
Are they trying to promote?
Are you
it?
getting your goal?
Yeah.
Like, if you're not getting your goal, well, what's happening there?
Right, let's wrap it up before we go on for more hours. Sweet, so we've covered a rather lot of stuff.
I think
Yeah, big
that's
chunk.
like a 40-50 minute block of chatting away. We could
About
go
four.
forever.
Probably go on for
Forever
longer.
forward.
Forever talking.
Forever forward.
I don't think we've missed anything. Is there anything else? We've covered pretty much everything.
Performance, safety,
Consistency of it.
consistency, yeah. I think that's pretty much it. I guess the only thing to say at the end of that, like we touched on briefly about the videos, if you guys aren't confident on any of your technique, you've watched this and gone, you know what, actually, that sounds like me, some of those niggles, I'm not getting my goal. Like, let us know. For us an email, for us a message, comment below this video because this is going to be a YouTube video. Send us videos and we'll be able to help you, right? So I guess that's it. To summarise then, the reasons why people should train with good form.
One, for consistency. Make sure that the progress you're having has come from an increase in strength or muscle mass and not by a change of momentum or any other variable.
Performance. If your goal is strength, like good form leads to optimal force production, so you can ultimately become stronger in the long run. And if you're training for hypertrophy, you can target the correct muscles, like you said, rather than using hips for momentum and stuff like that.
Yeah, making sure you do it for safety and longevity in sport, so make sure you actually can train for more than 5 months before getting a busted up knee.
Snapped up. And training so that you can achieve your goal. So, like, that is, it all links into this one, basically.
Exactly.
That ultimately you're going to the gym for a reason. Having good form is going to lead to that goal.
Yeah, and then also just touch on obviously identifying if you've got any issues yourself, and then also how to kind of address where you're going through it. We will see what the next one is. What will the next coach's chat be? If we put,
why don't you guys let us know what you want us to chat about?
It may be in relation to our next piss takey video.
Probably.
Yes, it should be a good one. Anyway, hopefully this was helpful for some of you. Moral of the story is train with good form. If you've got bad form, you haven't got any excuse to be doing with bad form. Unless
you're making really good videos for Instagram and you want to train like a pro like we do.
Yeah, that's it. But there is no excuse for poor technique in any outcome, because even if you're using it badly now for that extra little weight, like, you'll suffer in the long term. So I don't care what your reason is, it's not good enough to use bad form.
Take your time, don't expect it to change overnight. Like,
if you have a good coach, it should change pretty rapidly.
Yeah, if you work on it, it's going to change, right? So it's like everything.
Just don't let those bad habits creep in.
Damn right.
Right.
Okay. Like, subscribe,
join the team, all the rest of the delightful
fun stuff.
And we shall see you in the next one. Missed it. No filters.